The Dallas Cowboys got some big-time news before their Week 2 matchup against the New York Football Giants. The majority of this is going to focus on Russell Wilson, once again being named the starting quarterback for the Giants. That had to be a conversation is actually, I think, pretty significant as it relates to Dallas. Part of the Giants' struggles were on offense and on the quarterback after a pretty poor 21-6 loss that doesn't even feel reflective of how that game went. Could have been a lot more in favor of the Commanders. We'll break down why I think it's actually a good thing that Russell Wilson is going to start for the Cowboys again, or start for the Giants, against the Cowboys in NFL Week 2. Before we dive into that, how excited are you for the upcoming Giants game? They always play early in the season, which sometimes I find frustrating. But how excited are you? Scale it from 1 to 10 in the comment section of today's show. Now, there was one bit of not great news that came across the wire right before we ended up going live today. Perrion Winfrey has been placed on injured reserve. No details yet on who will replace him on the 53-man roster. Would make a lot of sense if it was Ryan Flanoy, add an extra receiver. We'll see. But Winfrey is going to miss at least the next 4 games. The back tightness, clearly more than back tightness if you're going to go on IR and miss several games. So real firm details not yet known, but did want to mention that here before we got going. Now, the Giants are 1 game in to the 2025 NFL season, and I think they already have pretty significant quarterback issues. When we're having, and this is not me, this is our Giants channel, Giants fans in general, having a conversation of like, is it time to go to Jaxson Dart? My boy Marshall Green, who we'll mention on today's show, he had like the third quarter tweet of play Dart. You're a game in, and you're already doing this. That's a really bad sign. Now, Giants head coach Brian Daboll did name Russell Wilson the starter for their NFL Week 2 matchup against the Cowboys. This came on the heels of Brian Daboll not really answering who was going to be the quarterback. There were questions on this. That's why his Monday press conference kind of got going with it. He was kind of awkwardly non-committal about who was going to be the quarterback. It was a long rambling of essentially well, it's just after the game. But that it was a question, he wouldn't answer it. It raised concerns. If you're 1 game into the year and you're trying to figure out the quarterback still and there's uncertainty about the guy you just signed in free agency, you have massive issues. And frankly, look, the reality was Russell Wilson did not play well against the Commanders. A defense that is not bad, but is not an elite unit necessarily either. 17 of 37, 168 yards, just was under duress consistently. We'll get to that here more in depth in a little bit. I don't think he played well. I like having to go against him in Week 2, or maybe getting to go against him in Week 2. Are you glad that Russell Wilson is starting in Week 2 against the Dallas Cowboys? Y for yes, N for no. Let me know in the comments section of today's show. Are you glad Russell Wilson is starting in Week 2? Go vote in the comments. Talk to my guy Marshall Green. We'll do the F-Marshies later in the week. Don't worry, folks. About the whole quarterback thing, and he told me that it's obvious Brian Daboll is ready to play Jaxson Dart. The Giants do not score a touchdown in the first half against Dallas next week. I think Jaxson Dart will start the second half. Look, Russell Wilson does not scare me. I have several memes ready to go, one of which is a reply to Marshall on social media. He tweeted, "Why am I trying to talk myself into Russell Westbrook for the Knicks?" I said, for the same reason you're trying to talk yourself into Russell Wilson for the Giants. Here we are a week in. He's calling for Jaxson Dart to start. The Giants and Russ, the writing was on the wall. If this doesn't suddenly get way better, hopefully that's the case, because it didn't work in Denver. It didn't work in Pittsburgh. In general, the this time it'll be different guy doesn't normally work out. But it did work out for Week 1 for Daniel Jones and the Colts, which, by the way, all of a sudden Daniel Jones, this might be a Dolphins issue, by the way, but Daniel Jones leaves the Giants and puts up his best game in how many times? How many chances? I think that might be a damning indictment on Brian Daboll and Mike Kafka, too. Have Russ play bad, Daniel Jones look good, stick with Russ, not go to Dart yet. I think that's a win for the Cowboys. More on this to come. Before we dive into it, today's show is made possible by PrizePicks. You and I make decisions every day, but on PrizePicks, being right can get you paid. Don't miss any of the excitement this season on PrizePicks, where it is good to be right. It is simple to play. You pick more or less on 2 to 6 player stat projections. If you get your picks right, you could cash in. It is the best way to get action on sports in more than 40-plus states, including California, Georgia, and, of course, Texas. Little Monday Night Football PrizePicks action for you. Justin Jefferson, more than a half touchdown. Caleb Williams, I'm a bit worried about that Vikings defense matchup, less than passing yards. Will Reichard, more than 1.5 field goals made. The power play or the flex play on that. Download the app today and use code CLNS to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. That's code CLNS to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. Links in the comment section and the description of today's show. PrizePicks, it's good to be right. Now, one of the things Marshall said post-game was the Giants lost because the same issues from last year are still there. One of them is quarterback play under pressure. Russell Wilson was bad per NFL's next-gen stats under pressure. 5 of 16 for a meager 51 yards and an 18.2 success rate, which normally is like, was the play productive to getting you towards the end zone? So first down, can you get 5 or 6? Third down, do you get the first down? 18.2% of the time was it wasn't good. Even some of the completions were just checkdowns, not enough to get the first down there. That's noteworthy to me. The Cowboys did pressure Jalen Hurts. Now, they did not bring him down. They had too many missed chances. He was able to buy time with his legs out of the pocket, get first downs, etc. Russell Wilson is not Lamar. He's not Hurts. He can still move a little bit. But I think he's easier to sack than Jalen Hurts is. And I think that you can argue the Cowboys' front four is at least as good as the Commanders, or at least not enough of a difference to justify it being significantly less. Now, to be fair, the Giants did not have Andrew Thomas in that game in Week 1. Also, to be fair, he may not play in Week 2 either. That I asked Marshall, like, he's going to be back. He's like, I don't know. Like, I hope, but I'm kind of done with the hope stuff. So we'll see later in the week as it goes along. But it wasn't just James Hudson, the replacement for Andrew Thomas, who struggled, though he had a rough game. 6 pressures, a flag. Dorrance Armstrong ate his lunch. But John Runyan, John Michael Smith, Rick Van Roten, Jermaine Illuminor only had 1 hurry, but hey, with 2 penalties mixed in there. These are the PFF charting numbers, by the way. All of that is significant. And Marshall also rightly pointing out on social media saying, I don't know who needs to hear this. Andrew Thomas doesn't help Runyan, JMS, and so that's John Michael Schmidt, Grant Van Roten, avoid getting cooked in the run game. Their run game also was not good. I like all of that. I think that all benefits the Cowboys, and why I think it's positive on that front. Now, who do you wish would start? Maybe it is Russell Wilson. Maybe you'd rather see Jameis Winston. The fact that you can make an argument for any 3 guys, what's the old adage? If you have 2 QBs, you have none. What if you have 3 QBs? Do you have negative QBs? I don't know. RW, JW, or GD? Let me know in the JD. Let me know in the comment section of today's show. I think at some point this year we're going to see Dart. I wouldn't rule out seeing him at some point in Week 1. There had been the pregame report of the Giants have a package in place for Jaxson Dart. I don't know if they did because they never used it. Which also he's not a package quarterback. Like he's a Lane Kiffin quarterback, which is a bunch of fake stuff and not actually doing real drop back passing game. As good as Dart was in the preseason, a lot of that was I guess you could call it package stuff. He operates and does well in situations that are favorable to him. You can go back and watch all the Florida tape, which they try to scrub from the internet. You can go back and watch his time at Ole Miss. When it's just easy play action, vertical shots, when it is easy on Dart, he makes it look easy. When it is hard on Dart, he makes it look really hard. That's why the pressure stuff is so important. This is a rookie quarterback who has some physical gifts. The consistency was never there at Ole Miss in the moments that mattered the most. It's going to be even harder in the NFL. I bet when we get to the Week 18 game, I bet he's back out there. This week, we'll see. Now, we'll have live coverage for you here all season long on the Cowboys Report. Hit that sub button so you don't miss out. Free Cowboys videos each and every single day. YouTube.com/@CowboysTV. One very brief note I also want to mention of why I think things went well for the Cowboys in Week 1, at least to the Giants and the Commanders. This was a quote tweet from Marshall. The Commanders totaled 432 yards. The defense was not good. I wish people would stop saying that. We will have a full preview available for you on the channel, both early in the week, Tuesday, later in the week on I guess Saturday night before the 1 p.m. game. The Giants defense was bad, so stay tuned for that.